In 1968, a basketball legend was born, but he would have to get through the toughest situations to get to the highest level, from growing up in a crime-riddled neighborhood in California to battling Michael Jordan in the NBA Finals, from being suspended in high school to the Hall of Fame. This is the story of Gary Payton.
When I was born in West Oakland, in the projects. Yeah. Didn't really know nothing about all that because I was a young kid, and then my dad got me up out of there when I was 4.
Gary Payton's parents, Annie and Al Payton, raised him in the tough Oakland projects that had huge amounts of gang activity. Gary's father, Al Payton, worked 2 different shift jobs as well as taking a part-time job at the local cannery. He also got Gary into basketball and built him a hoop in their backyard at the top of a tree, all so that he could keep Gary out of the streets. Gary Payton loved basketball, and because he grew up in the Oakland projects, he became a very tough and, let's just say, talkative player. He would go on to play for the Skyline High School basketball team, but his grades fell, so he would get academically suspended from basketball in his sophomore year. His dad, who had been nicknamed Mr. Mean, pushed him hard to focus on school, and he was able to get back on the team. Gary Payton would play very good basketball in high school, so he got a few Division I offers from schools such as the University of Texas at El Paso and St. John's. Due to Gary Payton's indecision, he lost many of his offers, so Payton decided to play for the Oregon State University Beavers. During his career at OSU, the Beavers made 3 NCAA tournament appearances and he became an All-American first-team player. He was even featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated as America's best college player. Due to his overwhelming success in college, he decided to enter his name for the NBA draft.
With the second pick in the 1990 NBA draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Gary Payton from Oregon State.
There is Gary Payton. He is 6'4". He is an excellent guard. He played at Oregon State, and most people really believe that this young man has tremendous leadership qualities. Payton with the basketball, nothing doing out there, and a long pass stolen by Michael. And here
the first 2 seasons, I mean, you even said it, people were considering you a bust.
Right.
Because high expectations, second pick, superstar, from OSU, and then boom, rookie season 7.2, points per game, 3 rebounds. Not superstar caliber yet.
Right.
Yet.
The Seattle Supersonics drafted Payton at the number 2 spot, but his career would start off terrible. He would only average 7 points per game in his rookie season and 9 points per game in his second season. He was not living up to expectations as the second pick, but everything would soon change. The Seattle Supersonics coach at the time, Casey Jones, was very respected as he played an important part in winning 12 NBA championships. The problem was that his style of coaching was not right for the Supersonics. Every team he had coached already had established players like Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. They were all in their late 20s and had already won a championship without Casey Jones. The Supersonics were a young team that was rebuilding. They needed a coach that could develop their recent high draft picks, Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton. Casey Jones was not cut out for that role. The Supersonics front office noticed this and decided to hire George Karl. George Karl would change the franchise around, but not in the ways you think.
I think the best thing that Coach Karl did was went and got Coach Tim Gergerich from UNLV with Tarkanian. And I think Coach Gerg made us all. He made us all because he did the one thing that nobody has ever done. This is going to be our 3rd year in the league. He made me and Sean go to every summer league and play in it. And it made us better. It made us understand how do we have to work and be tough with it. And the following year, both of us made the All-Star game.
You guys became the Sonic Boom.
Yes, yes.
This move proved to be a great decision. The following season, the Supersonics had a record of 55-27, a 17% improvement on the years before. They would even make the Western Conference Finals. They unfortunately lost the series against Charles Barkley's Phoenix Suns, but they took them to 7 games and showed incredible improvement for a developing team. The year after that, they got even better with a 63-19 record, securing the 1 seed. On top of that, Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton both made the All-Star team, proving that the coaching changes had worked. The team was getting better every year. Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton were starting to create such a good duo, they were even nicknamed the Sonic Boom. They would dominate the following few seasons together until they would reach their peak form in the 95-96 season. In the 1995 season, the Supersonics were one of the most dominant teams to ever play. They finished the season with a 64-18 record in a very powerful Western Conference. Payton would play some of the best defense in his life, averaging 3 steals per game for the entire season. At the end of the season, Payton would become the first guard to ever win the Defensive Player of the Year. Shawn Kemp was playing the best season of his career, averaging 20 points and 11 rebounds per game. The Supersonics had also traded for 2-time All-Star Detlef Schrempf, who was an incredible scorer, shooting 51% from 3 and 52% from the field the year before. The Supersonics were the overwhelming favourites coming out of the West. But on the other side of the NBA, one team would be having the greatest season in NBA history. The Chicago Bulls were coming off their first three-peat and Michael Jordan had just come out of his first retirement. The Bulls had come into the 95 season with incredible motivation after losing badly the year before to Shaq's Orlando Magic. The Bulls would end the season with a 72-10 record that no one had ever seen before. Michael Jordan was back to his peak state and won the MVP. They were going to be an incredible challenge for Gary Payton and the Supersonics. The Supersonics' first series was against the 8-seed Sacramento Kings, which they finished off easily. The Supersonics would move on to the second round, where they would see their first challenge, the Hakeem Olajuwan-led Houston Rockets. The Rockets had won the last 2 championships in a row, so they were a very powerful team, which would make it hard for the Supersonics destroyed them 4-0. The next team they would face would be the Utah Jazz, led by John Stockton and Karl Malone. The Bulls would be on the other side, facing their enemy, the Orlando Magic. Stockton and Malone were incredible together and would be Seattle's first real challenge in the playoffs. Their first game, the Sonics destroyed them 102-72 and won the following game as well. The Utah Jazz won the third game, leaving the series at 2-1. The Supersonics clinched the fourth game with a close 88-86 game. The Supersonics were getting so close to their first taste of the finals. Game 5, Utah won. Game 6, Utah won again. By 35. They were now tied 3-3, with all the momentum going with the Utah Jazz after blowing the Sonics out. Game 7, the moment of destiny. John Stockton was scoring out of his mind, shooting 50% from 3 and 60% from the field, and picking up 4 steals on the way. Shawn Kemp and Detlef Schrempf were leading this game, shooting at incredible efficiency. Gary Payton scored 53% from the field as well. It was a very close game, but ultimately, with a score of 90-86, the Supersonics came through, finally winning their first conference finals. In the Eastern Conference, the Bulls had decimated the Orlando Magic, winning 4-0. This meant that Gary Payton would face off against Michael Jordan in the finals. The Bulls were proven champions and were going to be the toughest competition the Sonics would ever face, but Payton and Kemp were an incredible duo and they wanted that championship.
I wish I could have did it earlier. I don't know if the outcome would have been different, but it was a difference.
The glove. I had no problem with the glove.
He puts it down. And that apparently had something to say to Jordan. Payton and Jordan having some words. Face to face.
Shawn Kemp and Gary Payton did the best they could the first 3 games, with Shawn Kemp scoring 32 and 29 in the first 2. The Bulls were too tough though, winning 3 games in a row. All hope seemed lost for the Seattle Supersonics, but they had a strategy they had been saving.
Did you feel like that George Karl was trying to keep you away from Jordan during those first few games and then switched it up like halfway through, or how do you view it?
I think that he was trying to preserve me because I was hurt. I had a torn calf during the thing. I tore my calf against Utah in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
Gary Payton had been slightly injured, which made the coach save the strategy for when they really needed it. The Supersonics had no other chance, so they had to throw in this last-minute Hail Mary strategy of putting Gary Payton on Michael Jordan. The Sonics dominated Game 4 and 5, with Payton forcing some of Michael Jordan's worst playoff finals performances. Game 6 would be the deciding factor for the Supersonics. Could they keep this going, or would they lose to the Bulls? Gary Payton, Shawn Kemp and Detlef Schrempf all played very well, but the Bulls had a strategy in their pocket too. They put Scottie Pippen on Gary Payton, completely overpowering him and tiring him out. The Bulls won Game 6, 87-75, breaking any hopes of Gary Payton and the Supersonics winning the finals. We saw Michael Jordan laughing at Gary Payton, so let's take a moment to see if Jordan was right by checking the data. If we look at this graph, we can see all of Michael Jordan's performances in the finals. He averaged 33.6 points at 48.1% efficiency. His highest scoring game is 55, and these are the 3 games where he was defended by Gary Payton. Against Payton, he only averaged 23.7 points on 36% shooting efficiency. Though this is a small sample size and may not be 100% right, it shows some evidence that Jordan struggled badly against Payton, proving Payton was incredible and the team's strategy worked. After that finals loss, the Seattle Supersonics were never the same. They still played very well, but never got to that level again. The following year, they made it to the second round of the playoffs with a 57-25 record. Gary Payton's stats were still getting better every year, but the rest of the team was getting old. Shawn Kemp was also starting to play worse since the 95-96 season. Detlef Schrempf was already 34 years old, so the Supersonics were not in a great position. In the 97-98 season, they kept playing great in the regular season, but lost again in the second round to the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. The 98-99 season put a seal on the Supersonics' fate. They shipped away one of their best players, Shawn Kemp, which broke apart the Sonic Boom duo. Their regular season win percentage during the last 5 years was 73.64%, but that year without Shawn Kemp, it was only 50%. A huge factor was also that their main coach, George Karl, was sent out and replaced by Paul Westphal. By that point, Gary Payton was a 5-time All-Star and a 5-time All-Defensive First-Team player, along with his DPOY. Though Gary Payton's defense was continuing to be incredible, the Supersonics were not doing too great, ranking 26th out of 29 in defensive rating. Gary Payton was also having to pick up more of an offensive load, with Shawn Kemp gone and Detlef Schrempf gone as well. This would give him his highest scoring season of his career at 24.2 points per game, but as a team, they would remain pretty average. Gary Payton and the Seattle Supersonics would not make it past the first round of the playoffs over the following years. The Seattle front office teamed Payton up with All-Stars Rashard Lewis and an old Patrick Ewing, but nothing really worked. The Supersonics knew they needed to rebuild. In the 2002-2003 season, Gary Payton got traded away from his favorite team, the team that drafted him, the team that he grew to love over 13 years. Payton was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks for the All-Star Ray Allen. Gary Payton did not want to play in Milwaukee, but continued as he would be rejoining his coach, George Karl. The team was very average, only getting to a 42-40 record and losing in the first round of the playoffs. Gary Payton still became an All-Star that year, putting up great numbers with 21 points and 9 assists per game, but he was getting very old, and every year his chances of a championship were dwindling, so he could not waste time on an average team like Milwaukee. At 35 years old, he was traded again to the Kobe and Shaq Lakers. The Lakers had already won 3 championships in a row 2 years before Payton joined, and this year they were one of the best looking teams on paper. The team not only had Kobe, Shaq and Payton, but also Karl Malone, 4 All-Stars. If Payton wanted to win a ring before his career was over, this was probably his best shot. The Lakers finished second in the conference and flew right through the first few rounds of the playoffs, not losing more than 2 games every series. They beat the Tim Duncan Spurs and the Kevin Garnett Timberwolves on the way and made it to the finals. The Lakers, being a super team, were the definite favourites, giving Gary Payton one of his final chances to win a prestigious NBA championship, but they would have to face the infamous 2004 Detroit Pistons. The Pistons never had a clear superstar like the Lakers' Kobe or the Bulls' Michael Jordan, so they were very underestimated. They were a well-balanced team that played some of the most incredible defense we have ever seen. They were all so in tune with each other on offense and defense, which allowed them to play incredible basketball. In the first game of the series, the Pistons were able to dominate the Lakers defensively. Kobe shot 37% from the field and 16% from 3. Karl Malone shot 22% from the field, and Gary Payton shot 25% from the field. The only person keeping the Lakers alive was Shaq, who got 34 points and 11 rebounds on 81% field goal efficiency. In Game 2, the Lakers were able to come back and win with Kobe Bryant scoring 33 and Shaq scoring 29. Gary Payton's age was really starting to affect him though, as he was only able to get 2 points that game. Everything went downhill after Game 3, where the Lakers would lose 3 games in a row and lose the finals. The Pistons were just too good together, and Kobe and Shaq were not in sync like the Pistons were.
This one hurt me a little bit because the simple fact is that we didn't go against I didn't think this team was that way, the Detroit Pistons, but they were playing really good together at the time. Detroit was a team where we weren't expecting the way they played, and they played out of their mind. Ben Wallace, he changed the game. Chauncey was having a great shooting series. Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince, they were playing well. Everybody was playing well, and Rasheed Wallace was with them. They were all playing well. But people didn't understand, they had 5 greats too. I knew we were gonna beat them at the first Game 1. And then we lucked up and Kobe hit that shot in Game 2 and tied it up. When we went to Detroit, we were deflated. I didn't even think we were, and we didn't. They beat us 3 up, all 3 games, and they beat us handily.
Gary Payton was getting older and older, and all hope was being lost for his championship dreams. At 36, Gary Payton was traded to the Boston Celtics to play with Paul Pierce. This Boston team was also very average, losing in the first round of the playoffs and wasting another year of Gary Payton's career. At 37, he signed with the Miami Heat, looking to Dwyane Wade as his final hope of winning a championship before retiring. The Miami Heat also happens to be the team that Payton's old teammate Shaquille O'Neal joined. Gary Payton couldn't do too much as he was really starting to get old, but he did a great job of bringing the team together and bringing Dwyane Wade and Shaq in sync.
We were struggling, Draymond, for the whole year. We're struggling from day one. I'm the oldest one on this team now. I'm the oldest statesman. I started seeing Shaq be mad about we're not getting him the ball. And I just told Shaq, I said, Shaq, listen here. Look what young fella did last year. We got to stop this, man. I said, man, we're going to make him be the first here. Period. You got to do this for me.
The team did great, finishing second in the Western Conference standings. Their first matchup in the playoffs was against the Chicago Bulls, which went very easily. The Bulls were not doing so great since Jordan had left. The next game was versus the New Jersey Nets, with one of Payton's old friends, Jason Kidd. They beat them easily as well. The huge challenge came in the Western Conference Finals, where Gary Payton had to face up against a familiar opponent, the team that had destroyed his hope 2 years ago, the same Detroit Pistons team. Dwyane Wade was just so incredibly dominant though with Shaq that the Detroit Pistons didn't have a chance. Gary Payton rounded out the team, supplying good defense and 6 points per game, but he was not the player he was before. Gary Payton had now reached the finals for the third time in his career and had a real shot at a championship before he retired. Payton and the Miami Heat would face off against the Dallas Mavericks, led by Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, and Jerry Stackhouse. Dirk Nowitzki was a beastly competitor, standing at 7 foot tall while shooting 40% from 3 and averaging 26.6 points per game. This would be a very tough series for the Miami Heat. Dallas would win Game 1, with Jason Terry leading the charge with 32 points. Game 2 would also go to the Dallas Mavericks, making the series 2-0 to Dallas. The Heat were in a bad position, but they weren't out of the game yet. Game 3 was the real moment of destiny, which would define the Miami Heat. Dwyane Wade scored 42 points and got 13 rebounds, winning Game 3. The tables were starting to turn. Game 4, the Heat won again, Dwyane Wade with 36 points. Game 5, 101-100, going to the Miami Heat, Dwyane Wade with 43 points. The Heat were now up 3-2 after being down 2-0. Dwyane Wade had led a tremendous comeback and just had to finish the Mavericks off. Game 6.
Miami Heat, they've done it!
95-92. Gary Payton had at last won a championship and had finally fulfilled his goals. He played one more season with the Heat, but he had accomplished everything he needed. He also felt basketball was becoming like a 9-to-5 job, so he decided to hang up his gloves. During his career, he only missed 25 games, missing 14 of those in the last year of his career. After he retired, he spent time as an NBA TV analyst during the 2008 to 2009 season. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. He spends much of his time still supporting Seattle basketball and doesn't like their move to OKC at all, as he hasn't let his jersey be retired in Oklahoma's stadium. He continues to run the Gary Payton Foundation that he started in 1996. He has 4 kids, with one of his sons playing in the NBA currently, called Gary Payton II. He's shown the same defensive prowess as Gary himself. He has already won a championship, playing a big part in the Warriors' 2022 championship run, and is still currently playing with them. Gary Payton is one of my favorite NBA players ever. He went through struggle after struggle when he was chasing a championship, reaching the finals 3 times before he won. He always played with great leadership and intensity. He will always remain as one of the best point guards of all time.